All right, I'm not seeing a reaction right now, but I assume that you've done your homework and know the Greek alphabet. I'm going to share a screen with you right now. We're going to just review. And as soon as you see a letter on the screen, I want you to repeat it after me. And we will just review the alphabet. This time it will not be in order. Repeat after me. Beta.
Beta.
Please mute your microphone. P. Eta. Alpha. Upsilon. Kappa. Chi. From the back of the throat, chi. Sigma. Sigma as it appears at the end of a word, except we usually just write a small s, English s. Lambda. Rho. R sound. Sigma as it appears at the beginning or in the middle of a word. Mu. Psi. Nu. I hope that no one said V. Nu. Delta. Theta. Epsilon. Now, these are the uppercase letters, which we do not take time to learn specifically, but you should learn them on your own, and primarily to be able to recognize them. Many of them are the same as in English. So we're going to stop sharing at this point. And now we're going to look at your textbook. I'm going to place it on the screen. You may want to look at it in your own, on your own device as well at the same time. Or perhaps that's not really possible unless you have printed out, but don't worry because we're going to look at it on the screen here. I hope that everyone can read this. This is the first chapter.
I'm sorry I'm disturbing you, Dr. Herbert. There are people waiting to be admitted.
Yes. It's difficult for me when people are coming and going. And I know it's difficult for you. Okay, Mr. Masood is here now, and you can send any message to him that you need to send. I'm going to make him co-host. So now that he has the ability to admit people, and he will be able to control that side of things. I want us to look again at, he takes attendance, and any connection problems you need to discuss with him, and he can then discuss those with me. We will be, I want to look at this page, and if this is not readable for you, please say so, but indicate it, but I think it should be still visible. In fact, I can make it larger, of course. Let's say not quite larger than, this is from the textbook. The textbook you can obtain now through contacting Ms. Zanaria at the address we will provide or have provided. I'm not sure. I think we have provided it, but if not, we will. And she is occasionally available at the Christian Studies office on the campus of FC College. But you will need to make an appointment with her, and you will need to borrow the textbook. I would suggest that everyone borrow it for the time being rather than purchasing. Some may have the money and want to purchase it. You should know that any textbook, you can purchase it. I will not refund it. At the end of the course, if you complete all 5 semesters, the textbook will be yours anyway. But you will be asked to sign a contract with when you borrow the textbook, and the contract simply states that if you stop taking Greek, that you will give the textbook back unless you purchase it. If anyone has not completed 2 semesters, my experience is that they will not really need the textbook because they won't go on. They may have good intentions, but they won't continue. And again, I will say to you that learning any language is a very difficult task. You are entering into the heart and mind of a culture, but also the heart and mind of people. And in doing so, you enter into a difficult task. Language is about relationships. Relationships are difficult. They are challenging. They are extremely rewarding, but they take a lot of work. Any relationship, any real relationship takes work. All right, I want to look at the first few pages of our textbook. And the first paragraph, this is not, by the way, the exact representation of the textbook. These are the important parts of the first chapter. When you obtain the textbook, you will have the you will have all of the first chapter. I'm only giving you the important parts. I believe on this sheet, yes, below you see the word McIver, page 34. That means that in the edition, which you will obtain, which you will have when you get it, this is on page 34. So, you know, because this was actually made for my church course. You can see Cornerstone Presbyterian Church here at the bottom. This was made for my church course, but this is the material from page 34. And this is page 1 of the document, but this is from page 34 of the textbook. He says, a glance at the guide to modern Greek pronunciation listed in Appendix I will show why students of New Testament and Classical Greek tend to use a different system of pronunciation. That's all we will need to say right now. We will use this traditional system. And last time we talked about it and we learned it. We will not continue to practice and review that. We will simply read from the Greek New Testament together. I will encourage you to use the link to John chapter 1 and to listen to that. Hopefully you have done so already. To continue to do that, and after listening to it, to pronounce it alongside to pronounce it alongside the text. I will send you a copy, or have sent you a copy. I'll send it again to make sure everyone has it, of the first chapter of John in Greek. Read the passage, listen to it being read, and read it out loud. This is the way that we learn to pronounce Greek words, by listening to them being read and by reading them, reading along with them. This is how we learn to the syllables. So you will learn that the word is not logos or something like that, but logos. And you will learn, and not again and again, I'm trying to mispronounce it. Egeneta, but egeneta. You learn syllables and pronunciation and even accents by listening and reading along. Will not make a difference in the accent marks. In writing, yes. We will not learn the rules of the accents. We will only learn to emphasize the syllable where there is an accent. There are certain words that need a certain accent, and those are very few, and those we will point out. Now, you will also notice here breathing marks we talked about last time. Each Greek word that begins with a vowel, I'm sorry, I wish that my camera would work, my phone camera, but it's not working. If a word starts with a vowel, notice the accent, agape. When some of you might know is the word, one word, the main word in the New Testament for love. It must have this smooth breathing mark over the beginning. You might ask, why does it have to have this smooth breathing mark over the alpha? The answer is, it just does. It has to have it. Any word that begins with an accent, with a vowel, must have a breathing mark. If it is smooth, it is ah. If it is rough, which points the other direction, it is, all right, this to me is not looking like it is visible as it should be. And that's because I do not have my other camera working. I'll use a red one and hope that that is more visible, perhaps, maybe not. It points the other direction. This would be a breathing mark for a word like ha, mar, ti, hamartia. The accent comes over here. Hamar. Notice the ro, the R sound. Hamartia. Notice this is a hard breathing, and therefore it is an H sound. Hamartia, aspirated. Agape, hamartia. So there is a difference between words. No, every Greek word that begins with a vowel must have a breathing mark over it. Transliteration is the term we use to describe the process of using the English alphabetic script to represent the Greek alphabet. The only two letters that cause us really much difficulty is that eta is transliterated by E with a long mark over the top because we do not have eta in English. And omega, the last letter of the Greek alphabet, is transliterated by O with a long mark over it. That way we can distinguish it from Omicron. So if I am asked to transliterate, and many commentaries will transliterate, if I'm asked to transliterate the word psyche, the word for soul, I have psi, upsilon, chi, eta. I will transliterate into English letters P, S, U, C, H, E, with a long mark over the E in order to represent eta. Epsilon would simply be E, but eta must have the long mark over it. I will also remind you that sometimes the upsilon is transliterated by a Y instead of a U in English. And for that reason, we have the word in English psychology from the Greek word for soul or life, the inner part of a person, the part that you cannot see. The outside is the soma or the body. The inside is the psyche or the soul of the person. At the end of chapter 1, you have a vocabulary list. It is important that you learn, sorry, it is important that you learn the Greek, the English words that the definitions of each Greek word. It is easy to get behind in Greek. if you're not keeping up with the homework, not doing the homework, not doing the Moodle quizzes, and I know you can't do Moodle quizzes right now because no one or very few people are actually logged into Moodle or able to log into Moodle. That I hope to correct within the next day, 24 hours, certainly, I hope. But you must keep up. You must learn. If you have a chapter assigned in the textbook, then that also means you must learn the vocabulary. I don't have to tell you this. Even if I forget, it is your responsibility to learn the vocabulary at the end of each chapter. At the end of chapter 1, we have only proper names. Let's practice pronouncing them as a good exercise. Abraham. Again, Abraham. Secondly, Dawid. You remember the first two letters are a diphthong from last time. This sound is ow, but we have 3 vowels next to each other. So we pronounce 2 sounds. Dawid. The accent is here. Dawid, you know this name in Urdu and Punjabi, familiar to you. Next to each Greek word that you must learn, memorize, is what we call a gloss. Now, notice I did not say definition. I said gloss. A definition is a much longer thing. It encompasses the total possible uses of a word. If you look up a word in a dictionary, you will often see more than one possible use. And the total is the definition. It could mean this depending on the context. It might mean this depending on the context. So what we learn right now are simply glosses. They are 1 word or 2 word definitions usually that we need to know right now. Later, we will discover the definitions of many words. Logos, for example, which you have read in Greek in John chapter 1, I hope, if you have done your homework. Logos can mean word, can mean account, can mean an account that an accountant keeps, a record. It can mean a sentence. It can mean a message. It depends on the context. Theos. Notice the accent on the second sound. Theos. No diphthong here. There is no diphthong. There are 7 of them we learned last time, but epsilon, omicron is not a diphthong, so we must pronounce both sounds. Theos, God with a big G, God with a small g. Right now, it is a name for something, but it can also be a title. There are many gods, but it also a name that we address God, but usually we address him as God the Father. As Christians, we address him as Father, even Daddy or Papa. Then we have 2 names for Jerusalem. Notice the rough breathing over the first one. Hierosaluma. Once again, Hierosaluma. Accent over omicron. Notice this is not a diphthong. Iota, epsilon. So I must pronounce both vowels. He, Jerusalem. There is a second word for Jerusalem, and that is Jerusalem. This is an exception. Normally, I would have to say Jerusalem, but what happens in pronunciation of words that begin in iota is that they yeah sound is produced. Yeah, yeah. Jerusalem. Jesus is our next word. Notice a uppercase iota, in which case the breathing mark comes in front of it and not over it. Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. And notice the accent mark is circumflex. Ioannes, Ioannes, John. Not Ioannes, but Ioannes. Why? Simply because iota tends to be pronounced as a y sound in front of another vowel. These are two sounds. This is not a diphthong. So I must make two sounds. Petros, Petros. Notice the accent on the first syllable. Petros, Petros, Peter. And Christos, Christos. Remember, this is not an X. X sound comes from xi, that letter xi. But this is he, Christos. So these words you should know now. At least you should know them for the next class. And you should begin learning the words at the end of chapter 2 as well, as we will see. These are mostly proper name, what we call proper names, or we also call them proper nouns. Now, in the book, and this here he explains in note number 3 how an I becomes a J when the name passes from Greek into English, how Jesus becomes Jesus, and Ioannes becomes Ioannes and becomes John. And notice that these are not diphthongs. We only have 7 diphthongs. If we go back, I think we can see them here. No, this is only the alphabet page. But if we will look at them again. If you look at the, which I've also sent to you, the PDF of the presentation from the first class, class number 0, last time. The 7 diphthongs, that is 2 vowels that make 1 sound, are listed there. Actually, we should review those. So let's see, I'm going to see if they're here. I think they're here, yes, okay. I'm going to go back. I'm not sure I'm sharing the right thing, so let me go back and share the right screen. All right, these are the 7 diphthongs. I, A, U, U, U. as in feud, the English word feud, F-E-U-D, a fight. U, it's the same as this one. Epsilon, upsilon, U. Eta, upsilon, U, same. Oi, oi as in boil, Omicron, iota. Owl, owl as in sauerkraut, owl. And we, upsilon, iota, we. Let's just take a moment, break into groups, and practice writing the vowels with the diphthongs, with each other. If you finish writing the diphthongs in the time that is given to you, then practice again writing the alphabet. So you may also take a moment to stand up when we break into rooms. But I want you to practice writing the 7 vowels. Notice which ones are not vowels. All right, maybe I should share them with you again just to be sure everyone is on the same page. You might want to write them down again if you don't have them in front of you, but they should be on your page. Here they are. I, remember 2 vowels making 1 sound. I, A, epsilon, iota, U, as in group, the English word group, Omicron, upsilon, U. And this one that's more difficult to pronounce, U. Make a U sound, put your tongue in the middle, U, U, U. And this one is the same, eta, upsilon. Oi, Omicron, iota. Owl, not all, owl in Greek. Alpha, upsilon, owl. We. These are the 7 diphthongs. Any other combination is not a diphthong. And we already noticed this. For example, if we have the word for temple, he, ron. I also have an accent mark here. This is a rough breathing, so I make an H sound, he, not e, he, ron, ron, ron. No diphthong here. This iota, epsilon is not one of the 7 diphthongs. Epsilon, iota, is one of the 7 diphthongs, A. But this sound, I must pronounce both letters. And because this one is a rough breathing, I must also add the H, he, ron. But here I simply say A. As in this word, which means I said, past tense, ape pawn. I hope you can read this. Ape pawn. A pawn. Not a pawn, but diphthong. This is a diphthong. Ape pawn. A. This is not a diphthong. He, ron. So then I have to pronounce both vowels. So I have to know which combination, and there are 7 of vowels, are diphthongs. So I want you to practice writing the 7 diphthongs. I put you into groups, and each of you writes, and hopefully you have video cameras. This time I will make bigger groups. At least one person has a video connection. I hope that all do. It would be also, by the way, helpful if you would share it with Mr. Masood, my assistant, if it is possible for you to have a video connection, or if it is not possible, and describe your connection. Is it good, or does it go in and out? And what are your needs as far as connections are concerned? Because as much as possible, we want to try and help those students who do not have a good video connection, because we will need both audio and video for this class eventually, but we can help. So do not drop the class because you do not have right now a good video connection. All right, I'm going to break you into rooms. You understand your task. You have 5 minutes for each of you to write out the vowels. The diphthongs. If you finish with the 7 diphthongs, each of you write them and show them to the other students. Then begin to write the alphabet and in order, and compare. And if someone makes a mistake, you correct it. If you have written the alphabet in the first breakout session, then let someone else do it in this breakout session. Okay, I'm breaking you into rooms. I'm going to recreate, this time 4 rooms. Assign automatically, recreate, open all rooms. Please go to your room and write the diphthongs and the alphabet. Okay, we're going to share the screen again. We're going to look at the textbook one more time. And now we're going to go to chapter 2. We have the basics from chapter 1 now, which were the alphabet and the diphthongs, and also some details that we looked at last time, the iota subscript, the breathing marks, and the accents. If you do not know these things, then I would ask you to go back to the PDF of the class session from last time. Once you can get into Moodle, you will also have access to the recording of each class. So you can go back and listen to all of the class or part of the class, whichever part you need to watch. It will be available on YouTube. And hopefully in the next 24 hours, everyone will be enrolled and have access to the course on Moodle. In Moodle, you can see your homework. You can see files that I am talking about, and you can see the quizzes. You're responsible to give the quizzes that are listed for each week. So for example, if it says class number 2, which is next week, our first class was class number 0. And class number 1 is today. Homework number 1 should have been done for today. Homework number 1 is for class number 1. Homework number 2 is for class number 2. Class number 2 is next week, because the first class was 0. This is rather peculiar, I know, but by numbering them first with 0 and then 1 and then 2, the homework 1 corresponds with class 1. In the first class, 0, we did not have any homework that was due. But homework number 1 should have been done for today. If it is late because for any reason you did not enroll in the course until now, there will be no late marks reduced for you this time. You will have another week to finish homework number 1, but you need to also finish homework number 2. And homework number 2 will involve exercises from chapter 2. So we're going to read together part of home class number 2 in chapter 2, and we're going to learn how we recognize a Greek verb. Now, if you are sharing a screen now, you are seeing I'm trying to get the spotlight. I don't want the hand, but I've got the hand. Okay. If you follow along on the screen, not everybody using this book will feel a master of English grammar. So, a feature of Greek grammar will usually be introduced by a brief description of the English grammar to which it corresponds most closely. This chapter, introducing the Greek verb, will be no exception. What then is a verb? I'm going to go down the page. A better definition of a verb might be such as found in Webster's dictionary. A verb is a word expressing action, existence, or occurrence. Verbs may make statements, or verbs may describe my situation or something that occurred. Those are my words. Here on this line, words in the vocabulary lists. We just looked at the first vocabulary list at the end of chapter 1, and the glosses, the short definitions that you should learn for each word. By the way, I suggest you make cards. You can also get an app on your phone called Quizlet. I will spell it for you. Quizlet. 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 Quizlet is a free app that you can get, and it also has New Testament Greek. You can get vocabulary cards on your phone, digital cards. I prefer to write cards out. I have cards in Greek, I have cards in Hebrew, I have vocabulary cards in Urdu. The Urdu cards I have not learned very well. That's why I don't speak much Urdu. Aap kaisa hai? Maybe theek ho. Aap sunaye. I can't go very far. But I learn words. If I'm standing in a line, in a queue somewhere, if I have time somewhere in the family and 5 minutes waiting on my wife to finish cooking, I will stand up, do exercises, go walking, and look at vocabulary cards where I've written the words, and on the back side, I have written the gloss or the short meaning. It takes much review to learn vocabulary. We will give you separate quizzes, Moodle quizzes on Moodle for vocabulary, and separate ones for grammar. And sometimes they will be mixed together. But you need to learn these words. Words in the vocabulary lists, here I am, that end in omega, mu, iota, me, or oh my. That's easy to remember. Oh my, what has happened? Oh my. Notice with the dash in front, we know that these are endings of words. These are not words by themselves. These are the endings to words. Words that end in omega, me, or oh my, notice the diphthong, oh my, must be verbs. So here is another way to understand what a verb is. Observe what happens to words with these endings, and you will gain a very good understanding of what a verb is and what it can do in a sentence. And I will tell you that probably the most important kind of words in the language we are learning are the verbs. The Greek verbs have a lot of information in them. And many nouns in Greek developed out of verbs. Now, verbs also have what we call paradigms. Every native English speaker automatically knows whether something is correct or incorrect English. All would realize the sentence, the boy sat down, he ate a sandwich, has a mistake in it. And that I want eat is bad grammar, whereas I want to eat is correct. What is the, by the way, what is the mistake here? The boy, not the boys. The boy, singular, sat down, he ate a sandwich. We know it's one boy and therefore it should not have an S. The boy sat down. It is surprising to realize that, but each English speaker knows the correct patterns to use for a spoken or written language. For verbs, these patterns are called paradigms. For example, here is the verb pattern for the English present tense. Active voice, by the way, but we will not worry about this right now. Just know present tense. In English, I say, I hear, I eat, I have. That is called the first person singular, person and number. Person is first person singular. I say, I hear, I eat. Let's just make a contrast. The first person plural is we. We say, we hear, we eat, we have. That's the first person. The second person, we say, is you. You singular, you plural. You say, plural, you say. You hear, plural, you hear. In modern English, we don't have a difference between the singular you, second person singular, and the second person plural. We used to make a difference. We would say, thou sayest. And for plural, we would say, ye, Y-E, ye say. But this is Old English. We don't use it anymore. It has gone away. In German, it has stayed. They have two kinds of you, but in English, we only have you. The third person, notice there are only three persons. He, she, or it. Masculine, feminine, and we also have actually a neuter, it. He, she, it, says. Notice we have a slight, what we call inflection here. This is an inflection. The ending has changed. Not he say, but he says. Not she hear, but she hears. Not he eats or it eats. If we're talking about a dog, for example, it eats, but it eat, but it eats. The third person singular inflects, we say in English. The plural is they say, they hear, they eat. It is key for us to learn the paradigm of the Greek verb like we know the paradigm of the English verb. By this way, first person singular, second person, third person singular, and then first person and second and third person plural. Now, we're going to learn the paradigm for the Greek present tense. We're going to use the verb luo. Write this verb on the board. Lu. Notice lambda, upsilon. Okay. Lu. This is what we call the stem of this verb. And to this stem, we will add endings. These endings will give us information. So, for example, if I write luo, or actually accent luo, this will tell me something. If I write lu ace, notice the sigma is like the sigma at the end of a word. If I write luace, this is actually one word, but I'm going to put a little dash here because to show the ending. The stem is lu. The ending is ace. This also will tell me information. It will tell me more information than it does in the English language. The Greek verb actually gives a lot of information, more than we have in English. As you will notice here in the paradigm of the present tense in Greek, luo, I have endings, luo, luace, lua, luomen, luomen, luete, luusi, or in some cases, what we call a movable nu. Notice at the end of the word, the letter nu. We call this a movable nu because sometimes this word has a nu at the end. The reason is that the next word begins with a vowel. And when you're speaking, you very naturally say na, na, rather than ia. We loosen na. It just comes naturally with speaking, but in writing, we have to think about it. It's called a movable nu. So it can be luusi or luusin, both forms. The nu comes if the next word begins with any vowel. So we learn both, luusi, luusin. Now, what we do is we have to learn these endings. We have to learn the stem of the word, of the verb. We have to learn the endings of the verb. I found it very helpful when I first learned Greek to put the endings of verbs or nouns. Nouns will also do what we call inflection. This is called inflection when a word changes according to different information. And I learned these endings, which are o, ace, a, omen, ete, usi, or usin, like this, with a song. I started learning o, ace, a, omen, ete, usi, o, ace, a, omen, ete, usi, o, ace, a. Now, if any of you know my age, you will know that this goes back to the 1950s and 60s to rock and roll music. It was the bass line. And later I would add other forms I wanted to learn so that I could practice them by a sound of music. Ah, son. I would add the aorist tense with the soprano voice, but I don't want to sing that for you. I know that is hurtful for your ears. Luo, but this way I learned what we call the present tense paradigm of the regular Greek verb. Example, luo, and we will use luo, I loose. Luo means loose, lu means loose, luo means I loose. The endings give us this information, whether it is first person singular, second person singular, third person singular, first person plural, second person plural, or third person plural. That's just what the endings tell us. So the Greek verb tells us more than the English verb does. It tells us not only the action that is happening or what is occurring, it tells us which person is doing the action. So if I have luo, it means I lose. Furthermore, normally, and I will encourage you to do this, the Greek present tense also gives the information usually that the action is continuing on. It is a continuous present. So my Greek teacher encouraged Dr. Campbell, whose videos I will put on Moodle at times for you to watch. So you have a second teacher besides me. Now let me stop here just a moment. My teacher encouraged me, and Dr. Campbell will encourage you, and most Greek teachers will encourage you to use the continuous present in English to translate the Greek present. So we say not I loose, but simple present, but I am loosing. Not I loose, but I am loosing. Why? Because usually the Greek present tense emphasizes the kind of action taking place. And usually it is continuous. But it is not wrong for you to use the simple present English to translate the Greek present tense. And therefore, because the book, your textbook does this as well. He does not translate I am loosing. Usually he translates I loose. So either one is acceptable, but you will find me using the progressive to translate the present tense into English more. And we will see the reasons for this and the difference it makes in translating in the Greek New Testament as we move along in our study of the language. Oh, I'm going to share my screen again with you just a moment, and then I'm going to once more break you into groups just briefly. Let's see, no, I don't need that. I need share the room. I'm going to share, I don't want this. Okay, a moment. So we're going to look at the first chapters, chapter 2 and 3 in this PowerPoint presentation. In this first slide, you notice part of the Greek New Testament. And again, I encourage you to read in Greek. You won't understand it, of course not. You don't know enough Greek to understand it yet. But you will learn to pronounce the words. And you will recognize Jerusalem right here. Jerusalem. Accent here. Jerusalem. Phaneron. PH sound. Phaneron. Kai. U. And so on. So go to the link, please, more than once and listen to the Gospel of John chapter 1 and read along and listen and read along. Okay, we have already considered the question, what is a verb? And next time we will consider this, what is a noun? Right now, I want to skip this and go to verbs. We're in chapter 2. Verbs have, we're going to skip this, come back to it later. Now, here we have luo, the stem of the verb plus the ending luo, which means I loose or I am loosing, either the simple present or the progressive present. Either one is correct. Luo. Now let's take a different verb. If you go to the end of chapter 2, you will find this verb, akuo. Notice akuo. It is in the vocabulary list at the end of chapter 2. I'm going to ask you to start learning the vocabulary at the end of chapter 2. So you will not only know the nouns at the end of chapter 1 vocabulary, you will begin learning some verb forms. And because we have verb forms and noun forms, we can start making very simple sentences. We have learned to read the Greek letters. We have learned the diphthongs. We recognize the breathing marks. So we can read simple, very simple sentences. This one is aku es. This is the first person singular, I loose. This is the second person singular, you hear, because akuo means to hear. Actually, it means I hear, but as we will see, the dictionary will use this form, akuo, and say to hear. Notice this verb we get in English, acoustics, akuo. Many words in Greek you will recognize in English words. It's very helpful to your English vocabulary, by the way, to learn Greek. Half of English is in, my son used to say, he teaches political science at FC College. Half of English is in Greek and half is in Latin. He learned Latin, so he did very well on his English vocabulary tests. If you know both Latin and Greek, you know almost all of the English language, or you can recognize words in English very quickly because you know where they come from. Akuo, aku es, you hear, but not you plural, you singular. Greek distinguishes between singular and plural. You hear. At the end of chapter 2 in the vocabulary, we have another verb, lambano. But with the ending lamban a, if I know these endings, see, I have to learn the paradigm. This paradigm is o, es, a. He, she, it, hears. Or progressive, he, she, it is hearing. No, sorry. He, she, it is receiving or taking. I'm sorry. Lambano means I receive or I take. And with this ending, lamban a, he, she, or it is taking or is receiving or simple present, takes or receives. Make sure you put the S because in English, the third person singular also inflects the simple present, not he, she, it take, but he, she, it takes, he, she, it receives. Now you may ask, is it take or is it receive? It depends on the context. So either one could be correct. And if you are only asked to write the meaning of lambane, you can put just either one. You can put he, she, it takes, or he, she, it receives. Or you can use the progressive, he, she, it is taking, or he, she, it is receiving. All those forms would be correct because we have no context to know if it's a he or a she or an it that is doing the taking or receiving. Only the context would tell us any more information. This word is estheo. If you look at the end of chapter 2, which is also on your sheet, on the sheet that we were just looking at, we'll look at it again in just a moment. Estheomen. Estheomen means, this verb means I eat, estheo, but estheomen means we eat or we are eating. And ete means you have or you hold, have or hold, or you are having or you are holding, but ete is plural. You plural are having or you are holding, or you plural have or you plural hold, simple present. Don't translate you held, past tense, only present. You hold, you have. One more verb. Actually, I think there are 7 at the end that we need to learn. Notice the diphthong, u, u. But notice the hard breathing. So it becomes hu. And the verb is heurisco. But this ending is heuriskusen. And so it means they find or they are finding. Now, I want to take in just a moment, I'll break you into groups very shortly, but I want to share again the screen that we had here. The next pages. And here are the verbs on pages 46 and 47 of McIver. Notice thelo akuo, I hear, I listen. For right now, we're just going to learn I hear. Grapho, I write. Estio, I eat. Eurisco, I find. Echo, I have. Thelo, I wish, I will, wish, or want. You ask, well, which one of these is it? Depends on the context. So by itself right now, it can mean either any of these. Only the context would tell us which one is the best English translation. Lambano, I take or receive. Lego, which is, by the way, related to logos. Lego, I say or I speak. Luo, I loose. We already know luo. And by the way, these numbers mean the number of times this word is used in the Greek New Testament. Notice that Lego is used 1,318 times in the Greek New Testament. So it is an important word to know. So, sorry, not 7, but 9 verbs that we need to learn for next time. This is at the end of chapter 2. You need to begin learning these verbs. I'm not going to require it. I will not give a quiz next time on this vocabulary, but I will ask you to begin learning it. And we will do some practice on it. I require you to learn the vocabulary at the end of chapter 1. And you should know how to spell David, David, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, or Hierosaluma. So you have to learn these words at the end of chapter 1, vocabulary 1, and how to spell them so you can write them. But these words you do not need to know, and I will have a sheet that says homework number 2 goes with class number 2. This is class number 2 today. And it will say begin learning vocabulary 2. It will say learn vocabulary 1, which means you need to know those words and how to spell them and write them. Vocabulary 2, you need to start learning, but there will be no test. If I say start learning, I mean to begin, but there will be no quiz. If I say learn vocabulary 1, there can and probably will be a quiz on those words. So you will be asked, and there will be a sheet of paper. I will send it as a PDF as well as a Word file. That is homework number 2 for class number 2. Remember, this is class number 1. And for some of you, it is the first time you have been in class. Okay, so you need to know these words at the end of chapter 2. And okay, each one means I. Why? Because each one begins with omega. That gives us the information, more information than a verb in English gives. In English, if it says to hear, I don't know if it's who the subject is. I have to have a pronoun. I hear, you hear, we hear. I have to know this extra information, not in Greek. This verb tells me more information. It tells me the person who is hearing. So let's go back, and I'm going to share, no, this is what I'm going to ask you to do. I'm going to ask you to do this. I'm going to ask you to take these endings, which we saw, and which I also sent to you. So if you don't have them, it would be good for you to write them down. These endings, O, ace, O, ace, a, omen, not omen, omen, ete, usen, usen. This is the present tense paradigm of the Greek verb. O, ace, a, omen, ete, usi. And you should be able next time to repeat it this quickly. O, ace, a, omen, ete, usi. O, ace, a, omen, ete, usi. O, ace, a, omen, ete, usi. I, you, he, she, it, we, you, they. Now I want you in your groups to take turns writing, taking the verbs at the end of chapter 1, at the end of chapter 2, those verbs, which I will show you again in just a moment, and adding these endings and translating this either into the simple present English, I loose, you hear, he, she, it receives or takes, we eat, you have, they find, taking these endings and adding them to the verbs at the end of chapter 2. And we will practice doing this. So these endings, I hope you have them. You maybe have the PDF of the first chapter, or you have simply written them down. You can also take a picture now of this slide that's being shared with you. So whatever works for you, just take a picture of it. So you have these endings. I'm going to stop sharing this. And again, I'll share with you, share the screen. These verbs at the end of chapter 2 of our textbook. These words that you should know for next time. Akuo, grafo, estio, heurisco, echo, thelo, lambano, lego, luo, and what they mean in English. And take the stem and add the endings. So the stem here is aku. Akuo, I hear. Aku es, you hear. Aku e, he, she, it hears. Aku amen, we hear. Or you can use the progressive. Akuo, I am hearing. Aku es, you are hearing. Aku e, he, she, it is hearing. Either one is fine. Practice back and forth. If there are 3 in your group, take turns. Take one of these verbs and pronounce the verb with the 6 different endings. Lambano, lambanes, lambane, lambanomen, lambanete, lamban usin. And then another person can translate. You could go back and forth. You could say lambano, the other person says I take or I receive, or simply I take. Then the other person says lambane and lambanis, and the other person says you take. Practice back and forth. So I'm going to break you into groups now. I want you to practice. I hope you've taken a picture of this if you need it. So you have both sheets. You have both things. You have the endings, and you have these 9 verbs at the end of chapter 2. Breakout rooms. We have only a few minutes left, so I'm going to open the same rooms. And please join your room and practice. Mr. Javed and Mr. Akil, you need to join your group, please. Please join your group and practice. Please join your group as soon as you're admitted. We're in groups. Please join your group. I'm getting ready to close.
All right, so we went past.
Graphomen.
All right. Everyone, please stay muted or mute yourself. We're coming to the end of our class. I hope you had some good practice. You need to read all of chapter 2. Now, your homework will be sent to you. It will be a document called HW2. You should have HW1. If you don't, I will send that again. It is learning the alphabet and the diphthongs and some other points, mainly chapter 1. Chapter 2 now, we are learning. You need to read chapter 2. You need to learn the paradigm, o eis e omen eta usi. And you need to begin learning the vocabulary at the end of chapter 2. But the main thing you need to be able to do for next time is to form very simple sentences. Those sentences are like I write, or I am writing,
I write.
or
I am writing.
your risk A. Notice the rough breathing mark.
You risk.
Admit.
You
Admit.
risk.
Okay, for next time. I will use WhatsApp, and I will also notify you when Moodle is ready. Some of you can get onto Moodle already, but most of you cannot. Again, Moodle, once you get the link to Moodle, you will be asked to log in and then create your own password, change the password, and then you will have your own access to Moodle. You will be asked to do the quizzes on Moodle, but you will also find the homework posted on Moodle, and you will also find documents like this chapter on Moodle. As soon as you can get to campus, Ms. Zanaria's email address will be given on Moodle. As soon as you can get to campus, you can pick up the textbook, but there is no rush. I have already given you the first 2 chapters, so you have all you need for next time. There's no rush. I will send you please mute. I will send you all that you need for next class, and I will send you all that you need for the next class after that, chapter 3, because some of you will not be able to get to FC College campus and pick up the textbook so quickly. I realize this, but I will send you the address for Ms. Zanaria, who is in the Office of Christian Studies on FC College campus, and she has all of the textbooks, one textbook that you need. To finish the class, heurisco means I find, or I am finding. Either translation is okay. But heurisk a, the stem of the word is heurisk. The ending a means he, she, it is finding or finds. Either one is correct. In the textbook, he uses the simple present to translate the present tense in Greek. I like to ask you, please, to use as much as possible the progressive present, because the Greek present tense usually means progressive, is finding. It is like a video camera. We are watching things take place. He, she, it is finding. We will talk about this later. Okay, again, this recording of this class will also be on Moodle. You can watch it there and placed on YouTube, and the link on Moodle. All the documents that you need, and any questions you have, please ask Mr. Masood. Normally, I would stay and answer questions, but I cannot today because I have to go vote. So I'm going to close the meeting and ask you to address questions that you have to Mr. Masood, and he will answer them for you. Thank you very much, and I pray for you all. I pray for you by name, especially as soon as I know who is staying in the class. And I will, you can send me also your prayer requests, your most important ones. I pray for you by name. God bless you all. I'm ending this class, and I will send you the homework. Please stay in contact with WhatsApp, especially right now. please go into Moodle as soon as you can. As soon as you're able, as soon as I can enroll you, I will let you know. And please ask any questions to direct those to Mr. Masood.